inevitably, when our choir sings, we are moved to want to applaud after they sing. But I know that that's not the spirit of their offering tonight. They're not performing for us. They are making an offering to God. And so in keeping with the Good Friday tradition, when they're concluded and we have our benediction, we'll be leaving in silence. You're certainly welcome to speak in the courtyard, but we'll leave in silence in respect for that silence that was part of the experience of loss for all those who had such great hopes for Jesus and anticipation for all of us to the Easter morning that is to come. And so, again, thank you for being here, and we now prepare ourselves to be in the shadow of Calvary.
His disciples followed him, and when he came to the place, he told them, "Pray that you will not be overcome by temptation." Then Jesus walked about a stone's throw away, and he knelt down and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, please take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet not my will, but thy will be done." Then an angel of the Lord appeared and strengthened him. Jesus prayed more fervently, and he was in such anguish that his sweat became like great drops of blood falling on the ground.
Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Father, if you are will be done.
After Jesus rose from praying, he went to his disciples and said, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Look, my betrayer is at hand." While he was speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests and the elders. Now Judas had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him." Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus replied, "Friend, do what you came to do." Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. Suddenly, one of Jesus' companions drew out his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. But Jesus said, "Put your sword back in its place, for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and immediately he will provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen this way?" Then Jesus said to the crowd, "Have you come with swords and clubs to capture me as if I were a thief? Every day I sat teaching in the temple, and you did not arrest me. But this has all taken place that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled.
"'Tis midnight and an olive's brow, the star is dimmed that lately shone.
'Tis midnight in the garden now, the soft-winged Savior praise alone.
'Tis midnight,
'Tis midnight.
'tis midnight and growing moon, the Savior wrestles with his fears, even the disciples look him on. 'Tis not his master's strength and tears. 'Tis midnight and all is still, the man of sorrow, wasted blood, empty having anguish felt, is not forsaken, not forsaken by his
Tis midnight, and from heavenly plains is born the song the angels know.
unheard by mortals or the strains that sweetly soothe the Savior's woe. 'Tis midnight,
'Tis midnight.
They took Jesus to the high priest Caiaphas, and all the chief priests, elders, and teachers of the law came together. Peter followed them at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest, and he stood there with the guards, warming himself at the fire. The chief priests and the entire Sanhedrin council were looking for testimony against Jesus, so that they could put him to death, but they did not find any. Many testified falsely against him, but their statements did not agree. Then some stood up and bore false witness against Jesus, saying, "We heard him say, 'I will destroy this man-made temple, and in 3 days I will build another temple not made by human hands.' Still their testimonies did not agree. Then the high priest stood and asked Jesus, Why don't you answer? What is this testimony these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. Again the high priest asked him, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One?" Jesus replied, "I am, and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of God the Father and coming on the clouds of heaven." The high priest tore his clothes and asked, "Why do we need any more witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" They all condemned Jesus as worthy of death. Then some began to spit at him. They blindfolded him, struck him with their fists, and said, "Prophesy." Then the guards also took him and beat him.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the Sometimes it causes me to tremble, Were you there when they nailed him to the
Very early in the morning, the chief priests, elders, teachers of the law, and the entire Sanhedrin council reached a decision. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate asked, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus replied, "Yes, it is as you say." The chief priests accused him of many things. So Pilate again asked him, "Aren't you going to answer? See how many things they are accusing you of?" But still, Jesus made no reply, much to Pilate's surprise. Now it was the custom at the festival for Pilate to release a prisoner for the crowd, anyone for whom they asked. A man named Barabbas was in prison with the rebels who had committed murder during an insurrection. So the crowd began to shout for Pilate to observe this custom. But Pilate answered them, "Do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews?" Pilate realized that the chief priests had handed Jesus over because of jealousy. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have Pilate release Barabbas for them instead. Pilate spoke to them again. "What shall I do then with the one you call the king of the Jews?" They shouted, "Crucify him!" Pilate asked, "Why? What crime has he committed?" But they shouted even louder, "Crucify him!" And after Jesus was flogged, Pilate handed him over to be crucified.
They crucified my Lord, and he never said a mumbling word. They crucified my Lord.
The soldiers led Jesus away into the governor's headquarters and called together the whole garrison. They clothed him in purple robe and twisted together a crown of thorns, putting it on his head. They began to salute him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Now as they led him away, they seized a man, Simon of Cyrene, who was coming in from the country, and they laid the cross on him so he could carry it for Jesus. A great crowd of people followed Jesus, and the women mourned and wept for him. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children." There were two criminals who were led with Jesus to be crucified. And when they came to the place called Calvary, Jesus was crucified with the criminals, one on his right hand and the other on the left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do."
There is a fountain filled with blood drawn from Emmanuel's veins, and sinners plunged beneath that flood lose all their guilty stains, lose all their guilty stains, lose all their guilty stains, and sinners plunged beneath that flood lose all their guilty stains.
It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified Jesus. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." Those who passed by shouted insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "So, you who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, come down from the cross and save yourself." In the same way, the chief priests and the scribes were also mocking him and saying, "He saved others, but he can't save himself. Let this Christ, this King of Israel, come down now from the cross, so I may see and believe." Even the robbers who were crucified with Jesus taunted him.
Savior of the world,
From the 6th hour to the 9th hour, darkness fell all over the land. About the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing there heard this, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah." Immediately, one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a stick, and offered it to Jesus to drink. But others said, "Leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah will come to save him." Then Jesus cried out again in a loud voice, saying, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." Having said this, he breathed his last. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks split. The tombs broke open, and the bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. When the centurion who was guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, he praised God and said, "Surely this was the Son of God." Go now in peace. May Jesus Christ, who for our sake became obedient unto death, even death on a cross, keep and strengthen you this night and forevermore.